The Ordinary Bear's Big Dream. In the heart of Hootenberry Woods, a lush forest filled with towering oaks and whispering pines, there lived a bear named Bernie. Bernie was not like the other bears who roamed the woods. While they spent their days fishing in the sparkling streams, foraging for honey, or napping lazily under the sun, Bernie spent his time with his nose buried in books. From an early age, he had always been different. His fur was as soft as any other bear's, and his nose was slightly larger, but it was his mind that set him apart. Bernie had big dreams. He wasn't content with simply living a peaceful life in the woods. No, he imagined himself as something greater, a hero, someone whose name would echo in the hearts of all the creatures in Hootenberry Woods. He dreamed of flying above the clouds, saving animals from danger, and perhaps even stopping villains in their tracks. But there was a problem. Bernie wasn't sure how to turn his dreams into reality. What powers did he have? What made him special? All he had were his books, which were filled with tales of magical creatures, heroic animals, and feats of bravery. But how could a bear like him ever live such a life? On most evenings, Bernie would sit by the large oak tree at the edge of the forest and look up at the stars. The fireflies would dance around him, their soft glow a reminder of how small he seemed in the grand scheme of the universe. Yet in his heart, Bernie felt something stirring, something magical. One night, as he sat under the stars, he whispered to himself, "I want to do something big. I want to be more than just Bernie the bear. I want to be Super Bear." But even as the words left his lips, Bernie laughed to himself. "Super Bear," he muttered, "sounds ridiculous." Little did he know that his wish was about to be granted in a way that he could never have imagined. The transformation. The next day dawned bright and clear. Bernie, as usual, wandered through the forest with a book tucked under his arm. He was following a trail he had never noticed before, hidden among the thick bushes and towering ferns. His curiosity piqued, Bernie decided to follow it. The path led him deep into the heart of the woods, farther than he had ever ventured. The air grew cooler, and the trees seemed to close in around him. After what felt like hours, Bernie stumbled into a small clearing. In the center of the clearing, lying upon a patch of moss, was a strange glowing rock. It pulsed with a soft blue light, like the beating of a heart. Bernie's curiosity got the best of him. He approached the rock, cautiously extending one large paw to touch it. As soon as his paw made contact with the rock, a surge of energy shot through him. His body trembled, and a warm light enveloped him, lifting him into the air. He felt every cell in his body tingle with an electrifying power that he had never known before. "What's happening?" Bernie gasped, his voice trembling with both excitement and fear. The light grew brighter, and the ground beneath him seemed to dissolve. In that instant, Bernie felt something inside him shift. It wasn't just his body that was changing. His very essence was transforming. His mind felt clearer, sharper, and suddenly he could hear the forest in a way he never had before. The leaves rustled with whispers. The breeze carried the thoughts of birds soaring above, and even the distant stream seemed to be speaking to him. As the light faded, Bernie found himself gently floating back to the ground. He looked at his paws, which now seemed stronger and more agile. He was no longer just Bernie the bear. The transformation had granted him power superhuman abilities beyond his wildest dreams. His muscles rippled with strength, his vision was sharper, and perhaps most surprising of all, he found that he could now understand the language of animals. A red cape fluttered in the wind behind him. It was as though the cape had appeared out of nowhere, and it seemed to glow with an inner fire, wrapping itself around his shoulders as though it had always belonged there. This is incredible," Bernie shouted, looking at his reflection in a nearby pool of water. I'm Super Bear." The first test Super Bearer Bernie, as he would always think of himself, was still trying to wrap his mind around his new abilities when a cry broke through his thoughts. "Help! Help!" It was coming from the direction of the forest's pond, the one that all the animals gathered around to drink. Without a second thought, Bernie sprang into action. He leapt into the air, his cape billowing behind him, and soared above the treetops. The wind whipped through his fur as he sped toward the pond. When Bernie arrived, he saw the source of the distress. The pond, which had once been a sparkling oasis, was now a shadow of its former self. The water level had dropped dramatically, and the creatures of the forest, raccoons, deer, rabbits, and even the shy hedgehogs were gathered around, panicked and confused. "What's going on?" Bernie asked, landing gracefully on the ground. "It's the dam," cried a squirrel named Nutters. "Baron Chomp, the beaver, is building a dam that's blocking the water. It's all going to dry up." Bernie frowned. Baron Chomp was not a villain, but he had a tendency to be a little overzealous when it came to building things. Bernie knew he had to act fast. Without wasting a moment, Bernie dashed toward the dam, which was made of branches, mud, and rocks. At the top of the dam stood Baron Chomp, the large, gruff beaver busily gnawing on a log. "Baron Chomp!" Bernie called out. Baron Chomp looked up in surprise, his beady eyes widening. "Well, if it isn't Super Bear himself, what brings you here?" "I've heard that your dam is blocking the water supply for the whole forest," Bernie said. "You've got to stop." Baron Chomp sighed, setting down his log. "I'm sorry, Bernie, but I have no choice. My family needs a home, and this pond's the only place I can build." "I didn't mean to cause any harm." Bernie blinked. "Wait, you didn't mean to block the water?" Baron Chomp shook his head. "No, of course not. I'm just trying to build a safe home for my family, but I didn't think about how it would affect the others." Bernie's heart softened. He wasn't here to fight. He was here to help. "How about this?" Bernie said, his mind working quickly. "I'll help you build a new dam. one that lets the water flow, but also gives you the space you need. Baron Chomp's eyes widened. You'd do that? You'd help me? Bernie nodded. Everyone in this forest has to work together. If we don't, we'll all suffer. I think we can come up with a solution that works for everyone. With that, the two new friends worked together. Bernie used his newfound strength and intelligence to help Baron Chomp design a special dam that allowed water to flow freely to the animals, while also creating a safe, cozy space for Baron Chomp's family. When the dam was complete, the water began to rise once more. The forest animals cheered and Bernie smiled, knowing that he had solved the problem with kindness and cooperation. The Battle of Wits word of Bernie's heroic actions spread quickly throughout Hootenberry Woods. The animals hailed him as a hero, and Bernie, though still a bit humble about it, felt proud. He had done more than save the day. He had brought the forest together, but Bernie wasn't done yet. No, the forest had more challenges to face, and Super Bear was ready to meet them head-on. The next adventure awaited him.